What a play, play after play after play.
And he's got a lot of room to run, and she is taking over.
Jones, that's the greatest conference in the country is showing out tonight, gentlemen. I cannot believe it. That is the greatest high school football game.
Thank you so much for joining us on another Tuesday night. On behalf of First Amendment Sports, I'm Ken Marangolo, and this is the WCAC Spectacular. We're super excited to have you yet again to talk about the greatest high school sports conference in the land, high school conference in the land, that is. He's Kevin Ricka.
Very happy to be in the basement, talking about the greatest conference in the country, the league. But you know what? The greatest year. We got to get these arguments started because I'm sticking with the class of '94, my friend.
All day. He's Tim Strachan, also from the class of '94.
That's right. We're going to be well represented tonight. I'm missing live action WCAC sports, but I love the fact that we're still doing this every Tuesday night. Now starting to bring you some news and notes, a little bit of information around the league, despite the fact that nobody's playing any live sports. But also our guest tonight, Malcolm Johnson, class of '94 from Gonzaga. I'm feeling so nostalgic. Kevin and I played against them directly, but not only a great player on the field, a great person off, and I think it's going to be a fun conversation there.
I rooted against him briefly until I rooted for him for the rest of his life as a Mustang. But T, you mentioned it. Let's get started. This is week 2 of our amazing new segment that we are calling Around the League. We'll take you over to Fernandez Stadium, a place where we certainly love to be right now if we could. That's Matt Smith, head of performance training over at St. John's College High School, and former St. John College athlete Scotty Washington. We had the opportunity to go out there and help them prepare these performance workout videos that they're using to train all of their student athletes around, basically around the clock. Every athlete, no matter what sport, is being subjected to these cutting-edge videos. You got the agility ladder in work. That's Lee Volker. You saw her on our air for the WCAC championships last year. She's committed to Duke University.
Cameron.
On her way to Cameron Indoor, Kevin. I know you're excited about that. What a great program they have over at PVI on both the boys and girls side. Lee Volker on her way to Duke. Over for PVI men's lacrosse, Marco Signorello. He's a junior, and he is recently committed to play lacrosse at University of Maryland. That's 41 PVI boys lacrosse players D1 commits since 2013. Again, hats off to the lacrosse program at PVI. They've been doing amazing things here for the last few years. Another site I wish we could bring you live to on I Street at Gonzaga, and man, I wish I could be saying these names while showing them to you. Guys like Malcolm Dredd, Trey Jamison, Jackson Leggins, Kai Holmes, McMurray, Parker, Turner, He's Caleb Williams, Marshall Mazel on the golf team. He's heading to the ACC. There's all your lax commits. Again, another bunch of athletes that I sure wish we had the chance to talk about more. Finn Scanlon, he's been on our air a couple times. Toomey, Stanton, Norton, the Norton brothers. You got some Ivy Leagues. You got some service academies, members of the crew team. Check out that background, boys. That's I Street, Gonzaga, shown at its finest. Like I said, I wish we could be there, bringing you guys some live action. For right now, we'll stick to Around the League. I want to say thanks to all the folks at the schools who were able to provide us some news and notes. Be a part of it. All 13 schools. This is the slot on our show where we're dedicated to making sure we say names and get every single school involved. Everything the kids are doing in our league is important, and we want to make sure we're covering it. But without really further ado, we want to get to the meat of our show, and that is our special guest tonight, class of '94, Gonzaga College High School, Mr. Purple Eagle himself, Malcolm Johnson. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. How are you, Ken, Kevin, Tim? Good to see you all, you men.
Oh man, the pleasure is all ours.
Absolutely.
We bring the class to this show via the guest hotline. It comes a little bit from Kevin and T. Certainly not from me.
We contracted out.
We contract out the class. the class comes weekly via the guest hotline, and that's happening again tonight. Welcome to the show, Malcolm Johnson. And let's get right into it. And I kind of wanted to get started by thanking you first and foremost. We can never say the words thank you enough on our air, and so thanks goes to you because I specifically remember calling the Gonzaga DeMatha championship game, which was a huge moment for all of us at First Amendment Sports, and really for the league, certainly for you Purple Eagle folks as well. And getting a picture all the way from California from your setup where you were enjoying watching the game with what I think was quite a number of friends. And I just wanted to say thank you because that's exactly what we want. We want to be able to bring what we do for the league to folks like you and anyone who wants to care and continue caring about this league, which you so obviously do.
I love it. So let me first of all say you guys are onto something because this is probably the most fertile ground for high school sports in the country, and I can say that having lived in a number of different places across the country. I've been out here in Southern California for the last 16 years with our family, and they play really good football out here. They have really good high school basketball, but there's no conference that team for team, top to bottom, has the powerhouse that the old WMAC, current WCAC has. And you guys are bringing it live to living rooms, laptops, mobile phones, game by game. And I can tell you, they're not just alums and fans watching, but I got a younger brother who's a Gonzaga alum, and he's in the front office of an NBA team. NBA scouts are checking out what's going on in WCAC, and you guys are a part of that. So big ups to First Amendment, and this is only going to get larger.
Absolutely.
Absolutely is right. I love that. Coming from you, we appreciate that, man. We all kind of grew up in this league together. We share a million mutual friends, a million mutual stories, and we're about to get into some of those tonight. I think, my man.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
So are we doing Q&A, or do you want me to go with the memory that's definitely going to be very slanted towards what happened on I Street?
I got a question.
Yeah, go ahead, T.
Now that you're out on the West Coast, I want to know how hard you're representing for us over there, and especially that night. You don't want to get me in an argument with somebody from the West Coast about who's better. I did that once on Twitter here recently. It's the hottest I've ever gotten on Twitter with anybody. But
okay, so
I'll word to word with anybody, man. I know you're helping us out there.
Here's what I like to say, Tim. Men lie, women lie, numbers don't. So all you need to do is look at the rosters on Sundays. Go look at the rosters in this NBA bubble, and that'll tell a story. Every Saturday we see dozens and dozens of WCAC athletes kicking ass up and down the field. So there's really no argument about that. I had a chance last spring actually, to host a Gonzaga basketball team when they came out to play in a tournament out here on the West Coast. And I was amazed at how many of those young men had national offers, literally national offers. So Big 10, Big 12, Pac-12, Big East, and that's because the WCAC is hands down the top conference in the country. Coaches know it, players know it, so there really is no argument. You good. I got you covered on whoever wants to go with the barbershop argument, whose conference is better.
Case closed. Now moving
right.
on.
We've been California. That's awesome. Well, let's go all the way back. Let's talk about, because like I said, the four of us, we all graduated the same year from the WCAC, and those were some awesome days. And as great as it is now, it was pretty damn good then too. For one of the reasons is because you were playing in it, Malcolm. Let's go back to your days on I Street. Joe Rada really hooked us up with some awesome memories, and you, obviously you hold a special place in all of our friends' hearts who come from I Street. I wanted to spend a second on this picture here that you're seeing.
That's a classic.
Yeah, it is. I was looking. You can look up and down those rows.
Goodness.
Now, you could talk about all the people that we know.
Our brothers.
From there, who are our age, who've gone on to do amazing things, great fathers, great sons, great brothers. I love the picture of Joe Rada on the top left. Because you look at him, he almost looks the same. He might have aged the least.
Definitely the same haircut. He's rocking the Mike Gundy. I don't remember if Coach Rada had the mullet in the back, but up top, that's the same. definitely 80s bad guy. Yeah, Coach Rader's my guy. Toughest guy ever in the WCAC. James Madden right up front.
Yeah,
not
sponsor.
flexing.
James Madden
He's-
sponsor.
He's rocking the John Riggins shoulder pads that probably weigh 14 pounds. Steve Manfreda, my brother. This is a good crew right here. This is a
You
really
got
good
Joe.
crew right
You
here.
got Mike Cato in there too, don't you?
Rest
you
in
got Mike
peace to my
Cato.
brother Mike
right
Cato.
there.
I
Certainly
don't
want
see
to point
Patrick
out.
J. McCarthy, who I love like a brother. Pat and I went to Notre Dame together after Gonzaga. I see Matt Somerville, one of the toughest guys you'd ever meet. Number 2 right here. This guy's flying
Sweet.
Blackhawks right now. This is
It's
this
an
is
awesome
taking me
group
back.
of guys. How about
Yeah,
number
this is a
20?
good crew.
Top left, right just below Joe Rader's.
My brother
left
Michael
shoulder.
J. Lynn, may he rest in peace.
May he rest in
Literally
peace.
one of the best human beings I ever had the honor of knowing and calling a brother. He went to his rest last year, and he will be sorely missed. Mike was our fullback, middle linebacker, the most gentle human being, but an absolute monster on the field. This is what sports is all about, because I can tell you stories on stories about each and every one of these guys. And as I'm looking at this picture, I realize how few of them actually grew up the same way I did. The guy sitting to my immediate left, Kingsley Oprah, a Nigerian immigrant who actually lived in Sursum Quarter, which is a housing project right next to Gonzaga. And I was born and raised in Northeast DC, which was a tougher neighborhood at that time. But most of my brothers in this picture are from Montgomery County, Northern Virginia, and we all came together. That really is the beauty of sports. And I loved every second of playing with all of these guys.
That's very true. And let's not forget about Big Play up in the photograph. We can't
Oh,
leave
man.
him short. I know that that's definitely your guy. But can we do ourselves a favor here, man? At the top of the show, we all admitted we're class of '94. Can we get some color in these photographs? My kids don't think I played in the '40s. We had face masks. The helmets were not leather. Man, that's a great shot, a classic shot. But
When Joe sent me the pictures, that was my first thought. I'm like, oh, for God's sake! Like, we're in our early 40s. Like, they had, I mean, it wasn't a high definition at that point in time, but we still had color photos. Like, what's going on here? For all the schools, of all the schools, you want to be able to have them purple jerseys.
Okay, can I just say something right quick though, Kevin? If you look at those helmets, this might as well have been the 40s, because I think you get in the concussion protocol after snap number 1 if you try to play in a helmet that looked like that in 2020.
Malcolm, they had to cut a little stripe in the back of mine just so I could fit it over my noggin, and then just put a little tape on it and say, "Get on out there, play hard." Yeah.
The protocol
then,
used to be smelling salts and,
Yes.
and how many fingers am I holding up?
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what it was.
Sadly.
Even when your dad's the coach. I mean, it was like, hey, I think you'd be okay.
Yeah, you're not allowed to get hurt, is all I was told. And in order to keep my 3 hots in a cot, I promised I wouldn't.
How about being?
So-
go ahead, Malcolm.
I just want to jump into this real quick, just because I had a ton of respect for all of the Warriors that we competed against during that time frame. Kevin, there was a huge rivalry with St. John's, and there always will be at Gonzaga. But at the time that Jeff Clay was a college All-American at Catholic University, was just inducted into Gonzaga's Athletic Hall of Fame. At the time that Jeff and I were in high school, there was that school in Hyattsville and then the rest of the conference. And Tim Strachan was on absolutely the Mount Rushmore of that school's all-time greats. And I'll never forget the game we played against that team in the fall of 1992. It was down at our place, and he's tossing the ball all over the yard. His all-met wide receiver, Brian McCarthy, had a couple of touchdowns. One of them was on my head. And after that game, our head coach, who had been at Carroll for 2 decades before coming over to Gonzaga, Moss Collins, said, "So you guys just saw what big-time football is all about." And he wasn't saying that to make us feel bad about ourselves. It was motivation. And Tim was absolutely our team's motivation that entire offseason. When we found out that Tim had a scholarship offer to go play for Penn State, and Joe Paterno wanted Tim to come be their starting quarterback, that motivated us. And the tragedy of not having a chance to compete against Tim in the fall of 1993 Obviously, it pales in comparison to everything he fought through to be where he is today. But that, for me, is one memory I wish we'd always had, because, Tim, you may not have known it, but you motivated every guy on our team to be better. That ass whooping that you delivered in the fall of '92 contributed to us paying you back in the fall of '93. So thank you for that. Thank you for that. And also thank you for not playing in that game.
I'm glad I got a beard now because you can't see me blushing. I really appreciate that, man. But, you guys motivated me too. And I love playing against Gonzaga because, as you said, I mean, I grew up with all those guys. I was that close to going to Gonzaga. Like people might not know. But I'm still friends with all those guys and remember the days well. And I truly appreciate it, man. But there's respect all around. Those were great battles back in '92, for sure.
Absolutely. Much love. Much love. I will say this, though, since I just gave you a lot of big ups, I'm also going to thank one of your best targets from those teams. So this is a true story. We played them out in the fall of '93 out at Parkdale in PG County. And Coach Collins had a great game plan. We played man-to-man that entire game. I was a starting corner and I starting split end. And Notre Dame coaches were in the stands that day to come watch Brian McCarthy. And I found this out after the fact. So Bo Murray throws me 2 early touchdown passes. I catch another one right in the middle of the third quarter. And after that game, Notre Dame calls Coach Collins and asked for more game tape. And by the end of that week, I had a scholarship offer. And they told me that scholarship was supposed to be Brian's. So thank you, Brian. I appreciate you letting me score on you. I appreciate you not going off like you did the previous fall, because you helped write a lot of history for me and our family. So I appreciate that.
Malcolm, Brian McCarthy has always been one of the most generous friends that we have ever had. And we're just all, I can speak for him right now, happy for you. And I want to agree with you as well. I grew up with T-Bird and Brian McCarthy. And if I wasn't motivated by those two guys and that school down on I Street at all times, you got to be kidding me. I feel the exact same way. T-Bird is on the Mount Rushmore of football players in the history of this conference. And a funny story, man, when I was playing, I was always taught you're supposed to think you're the best player in the field, but keep your mouth shut. And I always thought that way. And then I came back from college. I'm the offensive coordinator at St. John's high school team. I'm all excited. I popped some old tape in. I said, Dad, why didn't anyone ever tell me? I was not better than T-Bird. I was always wondering why Tennessee wasn't calling my house. I mean, I was like, hello? No thanks, Gettysburg. I'm waiting for the big one. But that was the motivating factor. And it's so funny to hear you say that, because we all just kind of looked at each other because we wanted to beat each other so bad. And there was only one time a year to do it, maybe 2 if you were lucky. And
that's right.
Man, that's what drove us all off season.
Iron sharpens iron.
The cool thing too, Malcolm, is that we would play each other on the field and hate each other for 3.5 hours. But you were motivated by everybody else, because if you weren't, you were going to get dogged later on that night hanging out with the boys.
That's
afterwards.
Right. That's right.
Oh, yeah.
So,
we hung
100% true, Tim. One of my best friends growing up was Clement Stokes, who was the Offensive Player of the Year our senior year. Clement had offers from everyone. He and I ended up playing at Notre Dame together, but Clement and I grew up together. He grew up in Northeast D.C. in Fort Lincoln. I was from Langdon Park. We literally took karate together from the time we were 6 or 7 years old. And Clement was a guy, Kevin, who would tell you absolutely how good he was. And he reminded every single one of my Notre Dame teammates about the 320-plus yards that he stomped through our defense for in the fall of 1993. So, yes, you had to hear about it after the fact. Absolutely.
Oh, yes.
Well, let's talk a little bit about going to South Bend from the WCAC and maybe mix in a little of beyond Notre Dame. But, I mean, for us, I remember being in college and watching Notre Dame on NBC, I guess they were at that time, and they were still being covered nationally, and being able to tell all of the guys who were sitting around, drinking beers, watching college football, hey, that guy's from where I'm from. Not my same school. They'd be, oh, he went to McNamara? No, he didn't go to McNamara. He went to Gonzaga. But that's all. He's from the league. He's from the WCAC. And I got to watch him up close and personal for the last 4 years. So you go to Notre Dame from the WCAC. Maybe talk a little bit about what prepared you for that bigger stage playing at the WCAC, and maybe a little bit about your experience there for the Fighting Irish.
So you just said it, Ken. The preparation came way before actually getting to South Bend. And look, I hate to say it, there was really no choice coming from Gonzaga Jesuit school. My parents were laser focused on me getting the best education. So all the other places I looked at, Texas, Tennessee, Florida, no offense to those schools, my parents said, you get to go on a visit. And the priest at Notre Dame said, you better not think about going anywhere outside of Notre Dame. But when I got there, I realized academically Gonzaga had prepared me, but on the football field, Moss Collins was every bit as tough as Lou Holtz was, every bit. And I don't think Moss ever came up to me at any point after a game and said, you played really well. He would always say, we won, we could get better. And that was Lou's coaching style. I will say this though, outside of the competition on the field, my father, who trained me and Jeff Clay and Chris Rozier, went on to play at William & Mary, and Vernon Davis, who's literally just retired from the league, Vontae Davis, Josh Cribbs. My dad in the summer was what prepared me for Notre Dame. So we worked out on 8th Street. There used to be a little YMCA right off of U Street rather. Sean Springs would be in there with me and my dad in the basement. After working out, I would have to leave that little tiny weight room, come down to Gonzaga, run 400-meter runs with the helmet on and a football tucked under my arm. And Jeff Clay joined, our defensive lineman joined. I was the only one that was not allowed to quit any of those workouts. And that's what prepared me just to work, because I was never the best athlete at Notre Dame. I was never the fastest, but I like to think I was at least one of the hardest working. And that was really forged in DC and all the places we just talked about.
Man, that's big time right there. And I know this. Speaking from someone who's the runt of his family, you're speaking about your father. Your father was a 7-foot basketball stud who played at UPenn, I believe.
He did.
So he dealt with this. So you're talking now about dealing with your father, talking to Joe Rada, Moss Collins, Lou Holtz, and your position coach at Notre Dame, Malcolm. Talk about that polarizing figure. Urban Meyer was in the receiver room with you. This is some influence here.
Urban's my guy. But again, he was not tougher than my dad. He was exactly like my dad, which is why he and I got along really well. My dad loved him. This is also a true story. So Urban didn't show up until I was a junior at Notre Dame, and he at the time was like 34 years old. He come from a school out in the WCAC, and he was rough around the edges. So he shows up 2 weeks before spring practice is supposed to start. I hadn't played at all on offense yet, only special teams. He calls me into the office. It's me, 4 other receivers who coming back. And he says, this is 6 a.m. He says, hi, I'm Urban Meyer, strip. So we look at each other and we thought we misheard him. He said, I'm Urban Meyer, strip. So he then proceeds to make all 5 of us take off our warm-ups, stand in front of him in nothing but underwear, and then he goes down the line. He tells my guy, Emmett Mosley, you too fat. You got to lose 15 pounds or you never play. You too slow. Sakia champion. You don't get faster, you'll never play. He gets to me, he says, you too goddamn skinny. We run it, Randy Moss. Randy couldn't get into this school, so we got stuck with you. You better get stronger or you'll never play. And I took that as a personal challenge. I started to eat weights, and I ended up playing for Urban for 3 more years. And he honestly was the number one influence in me having a successful career as a football player at Notre Dame and getting any shot at playing in the National Football League, because he was all about toughness and accountability, all the things that made him an amazing coach at Bowling Green and then Utah, Florida, Ohio State. So I love him. I wouldn't say polarizing at all. He was crazy. But but he's my type of coach. He was like Moss. He was my type of coach, and you guys would have loved playing for him too. I could guarantee you.
Well, talk about playing for fans in Notre Dame and then going into the NFL and play for fans in Pittsburgh. Even though I'm not a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, I understand going from one to the other. It's got to be there's some similarities in the rabid nature of those fan bases. Maybe if you have any kind of orientation stories about arriving in Pittsburgh, my understanding is they like their football team there.
They do, but I'm gonna tell you this. First of all, I was basically a fan for my entire NFL career. So I managed to last for 3 seasons and then a season in the Canadian League, but I did way more cheering than actually playing. I will say this though, it was eye-opening, and you have to admit that you are a fan. When you first get to the league, you playing with and against people that you watched on television for the last 10 or 15 years of your life. When I was a rookie, the Steelers did summer training camp scrimmages against the Washington football team. So we came down to Frostburg, and the first time I lined up for one-on-ones against Darryl Green, I thought I'd literally forgotten how to get in a football stance. Like, this is Darryl Green, 12-time All-Pro at the time, on his way to the Hall of Fame. I've been watching Darryl Green since I was, 6 or 7 years old playing throwback. And that to me is what you got to think. Every player who ever reaches that level has had some amount of, I was a fan first and now I'm here. And then you got to convince yourself that you belong if you want to stick around. But the fans in Pittsburgh were as loyal as any I've ever played for. The loudest places I've ever played, and this is now dating myself, this is back when Tennessee had Javon Curse, my rookie year at Tennessee, won the AFC North and reached the Super Bowl. So they had Javon Curse, who was in his second year at the time. And they used to, first of all, let Javon Curse line up off sides. And you couldn't hear anything. He must have sacked Cordell. We played down there. He must have sacked Cordell Stewart 4 times. He had us jumping off sides several times. Like, that's one of the loudest places, and the second loudest, Kansas City, Arrowhead Stadium, also one of the loudest stadiums you ever play in. So it was, I look back now, that was like a dream come true just to be there. But the lessons have carried over into everything that I do, work-wise, teaching my kids, the brotherhood. It was an amazing experience to be able to play against you guys, go play against Warriors when I was at Notre Dame, and then have an opportunity just to be in the NFL for a brief period of time. That was an amazing experience that I will love forever.
Malcolm, I love that story. I love the Darryl Green portion of that story. I can't imagine in my world a better person you could plug in to play that role than Darryl Green for the eye-opening. But I do have one thing. I have one beef with your rookie year. I think you made one rookie move, Malcolm, and I want to ask you about it right now. You get drafted, you come back home, you make a phone call to your ace, Jeff Clay, the only other guy that's not going to have one drink at the club, and you guys hit DC Live together. Like, you're going to need one guy. I'm not saying that it should have been me, but I'm saying, like, I was right down the road in Northeast, one guy brave enough to go up to the bar and make something happen.
I got you on my next trip back home. We'll do it 20 years later. Jeff is my brother for life. First of all, Jeff's my brother for life.
Just so you know. Oh, no. Every place is better with Jeff Clay. The rookie move wasn't bringing Jeff Clay. It was you needed another guy to venture up. And then no one knows what you're ordering, and we can take care.
Nah, Kevin, you got to understand. First of all, Jeff is a decorated DCPD detective for a reason. Even back then,
sure.
he had eyes in the back of his head. That's somebody you want to go down the alley with.
No
you
doubt.
You just told me what your move is at the club. You going straight to the bar. You're not thinking at all about your surroundings.
To take care of my guys, especially the guy that just got drafted. You don't think I'm going to whisper in a few ears what just happened? You got to set the tone. When you guys make your entrance, it can't be with no one looking. I mean, come on.
Okay. We're gonna recreate this 20 years after the fact, Kevin. I promise. My next trip,
I got no problem with that.
The
man.
3 oldest guys at whatever club people are still going to in DC right now. I promise.
I wouldn't know. No one here would either.
No, Kevin, I'll take you up on that, Malcolm.
Okay, I got you.
speaking of thinking ahead, like you say, your boy Jeff Claywood walking into the club, unlike Ricka. Uh,
You were right there with me.
you thought ahead, going from the pros um, to regular life. Um, but you made some great choices. You put yourself through Carnegie Mellon, got your MBA, and now you're I'm going to get the title wrong, but executive director of community development, I believe,
That's
at
right.
JP Chase. Just talk about that and how you've dedicated not only yourself to a career, but a career of giving back to the community.
Yeah, so thank you for that, Tim, because it does feel like this is my true passion and my true mission in life. You know, the lessons we learned at Gonzaga and from our parents, those are much bigger than what we achieved on the football field. And I was fortunate. I didn't think of it this way when I was sitting on the bench in Pittsburgh and then New York and Cincinnati. But I was fortunate that I was out of the football before I had a lot of damage physically, and I got to see the end coming before it came. When I was in Pittsburgh, my locker mate was Jerome Bettis, and Jerome, I knew him a little bit before I got to the Steelers because he's a Notre Dame guy. He came back to get his degree while I was still an undergrad at Notre Dame, so I got to know him then. But he really schooled me on you have to make sure you are set up to do what you're meant to do and what you want to do after this is done versus what you have to do or what somebody tells you to do after this is done. And that was some of the best advice I ever got. So at 25, when football was done, I realized, just like all of us, when you first learned how to throw a football, you know, you needed instruction, you needed technical skills. And I knew I wanted to be in business and finance, but I didn't have that technical skill set. So getting an MBA was a natural way for me to go get those skills. And then I thought I want to affect our community in a positive way. Everyone needs a relationship with financial institution, even those who have not had access yet. So the first path was in real estate finance because that's the built community. It was very interesting to me to be able to work on large transactions that affect neighborhoods. And in the last year and a half, I've had the honor of leading a team that actually invests in affordable housing in markets across the country, which could not be more gratifying. And I'm sure you guys see what DC looks like today versus what DC looked like in 1994. There's far less affordable housing in communities like the ones where I grew up. So I have a direct hand in helping to preserve some of what our communities used to look like and provide opportunities for others. And a lot of it comes down to what you showed in that first picture, just the brotherhood. We all deserve those opportunities. The guy from Sursum Quarter, the guy from Langdon Park, the guy from Potomac. There's no difference in aptitude. It's who has access and who has an opportunity. So it's full circle, and I love every part of what I get to do today. But I stay close to the game. You know, I stay close to the game. I can't wait until Caleb and Coach T and all my guys down on I Street are back on the field. I'm hoping we get a rematch either against the Johnnies or that team from Hyattsville in the playoffs this year, because the competition still lives within all of us. I think Jay said it best. You know, no matter where you are who you are. You walk like a ball player, and that's in us. Tim, you have been a ball player and a warrior all your life. That's somebody meets you today, and they don't need to know any of your backstory. They see the way you look in their eyes. They see the way you carry yourself, and they know that you got that in you. And I'm proud and blessed that I get to still carry a lot of that in what I do every day for a living. So it's been a charmed life, and it's not done. It's not done. You know, I'm old, but I'm not done, and there's so much runway ahead. I'm really excited about what we're going to get to build for the next 43 years.
Well, that's what we love about doing this, man. We love doing this because as much as we love talking about the old days on the field, the current days watching the kids now, it's really about what kind of people we become, and these young men are going to become. And you're a great example, man. That's why you're on the show. You're a great example for these young men to know what it takes to not only be successful on the field, but more importantly, to be more successful off of it, man. And I appreciate that too.
Much love. Thank you for that.
When you talk about setting an example, I think lessons learned from a previous life, Kevin.
Yeah, I mean, I taught my son this story today. Thank you, Malcolm, for providing this. But it was your junior year training camp, and all I'm going to say is talk to us about Malcolm Foots Johnson.
Yeah, so sometimes you gotta learn lessons the hard way. And Gonzaga used to do training camp out at some campus in Southern Maryland, and there was a lake that my teammates told me was deep enough to jump in and swim in. And for whatever reason, I thought there's no way that my teammates would tell me that this lake is deep enough to jump in and then swim in if in fact that's not the case. And so I didn't at all think twice when none of my teammates followed me down to the end of the lake and followed me as I tried to jump in and swim. I found out that it was only about 2.5 feet deep, and there were jagged rocks at the base of this lake. And I ended up on IR for like 4 days. And I'll never forget, my dad came to pick me up from Gonzaga after training camp. I'm limping. It's my birthday. My birthday's in end of August. My dad picks me up on my birthday on North Capitol Street. We hop in his Mercury Sable station wagon. I got cursed out all the way home because this is finally going to be the first season where I get to start. And I'm hobbling around because I listened to my jerk-off teammates tell me that I could swim in this lake. And I end up with a sprained knee. Miraculously, I was able to play opening week. But, that sometimes you got to learn those lessons yourself. Like, don't necessarily jump in with both feet before you know what's in that lake. So thank you, James Madden. Thank you, Squeak. Thank you, Jeff Clay, for gassing me up. I appreciate it.
James.
I appreciate it. It was definitely James was a part of it.
Malcolm, I was James Matten's best man in his wedding, and I've known for a good part of 40 years to never do what James Matten tells you.
That's right. I wish I had taken that advice, Tim.
That's so funny. Hey, shout out Jeff Clay. Appreciate you, bud. Letting me in on a little, no one else would have let me in on that. I've been an outsider, but, after 20 years, I think the walls start to break down a little bit. We start to realize that, just like you were talking about, a little instruction, appreciation, a little dedication, hard work, and a mind for others. You take that with you from high school. 20 years after these rivalries, we're all brothers now. Someone wants to talk about our conference. We're shoulder to shoulder in this. And I love hearing this stuff. That's from
Can I give you one last St. John story, Kevin?
I thought we were gonna get out of here.
No, this is the last one. This was and my Gonzaga guys have heard this before, but I didn't play varsity until I was a junior at Gonzaga. So my freshman and sophomore year, I was on freshman with James and Jeff and my guys, and then JV. But after our sophomore year, those of us who had a shot at varsity next fall got called up to stand on the sidelines for the Gonzaga St. John's game. And then in that year, you guys had Pat Ward and Darryl Gilliam and Mike Brown was on that team. And those dudes were all headed to go play Power 5 football. So not only was I not getting in, I didn't want to get in because I didn't want any part of trying to get tackled by any of those dudes. But for some reason, a brawl broke out right at the end of the game. And I'm standing on the sidelines. I got to make a business decision about grabbing my helmet to go join all my teammates to fight at midfield. And I'm like scanning to see who on the St. John's sideline looked about my size and looked like they didn't really want to fight because that's who I wanted to go get wrecked with. And unfortunately, I couldn't find anybody. Literally, I couldn't find anybody that looked like they didn't want to fight and looked as skinny as I did. So I ran as fast as I could and then actually stood behind the referee and pointed at somebody and said, "That's why you didn't get into Gonzaga." I remember that like it was yesterday. So whoever that was, they probably have a really bad impression of Malcolm Johnson as a tough guy because I wanted no smoke that day. I remember that clear as a bell. Thank you, whoever could have strangled me and ended before it got started. Thank you, St. Johnny, for not grabbing me by the throat and stopping me that day.
It's a Catholic athletic conference.
That goes to show how good of a dude you are, man. That goes to show how good of a dude you are. Because if Kevin and I had to apologize for any of the things that we said to people on or off the football field, it'd be a long show.
No doubt. I really appreciate you guys having me. Much continued success. This is going to be major. It's going to be major, but you guys are the best part of it. So much love, and we'll keep watching.
Now that you are up and going on Skype from the West Coast, next time we're live from the sidelines of the WCAC, we'll be looking to get your perspective on things. Said the same thing to Marvin Graves last week, same thing to a lot of the guys we get to talk to. Your voice is important, and we value it greatly, and certainly we want to hear from you. And tonight, we hope, is just the beginning. I want to say that he is Tim Strachan.
Malcolm, keep doing what you're doing, man. It's so great to talk to you and catch up with you. We're definitely going to have you back on. Cheers to all the guys from class of '94 throughout the entire league. Appreciate you, man.
Much love. Last one. A shout out to my idol from Northeast DC, Lawrence Moten. Tell you how I go full circle. Lawrence Moten was my hero, and a hero for a lot of us who grew up in that era. I just heard from Lawrence's daughter, Leilani, today. I mentored her at the bank. She interned with us a summer ago. She got a full-time offer. She's going to be joining J.P. Morgan next year after she graduates from Morgan State University. That's full circle. That's what it's all about, and that's the power. That's the power of this brotherhood. So much love to Lawrence Moten, Leilani Moten, Kevin. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you.
Hey, Malcolm.
He's Kevin Rico.
Yeah, I'm about to stand up and applaud. That's such a great ending to the story. This is all we're trying to show everyone else what we got. But you're out there doing it. You're doing it day in, day out. And thank you for looking out for us. Thank you for being a guest tonight with us. One of the best guests ever. Thank you for telling him to keep doing what he's doing. Just don't do what we're doing unless you're going to do it with us. Because we don't need you on the other side. We need you on this side. What a great guest, man. What a great dude.
Absolutely. Much love, man.
My man.
Thank you.
I'm Ken Marangolo. Until next Tuesday night, this is the WCAC Spectacular. We'll be back with another great guest. Looking forward to seeing you guys in 1 week from tonight. Want to say a special thank you to Luke and Vic, Kevin and T, our guest Malcolm Johnson tonight. Man, it's a good night when the Class 94 is in the house. We will see you guys next Tuesday night. Thank you so much.